So g'day everyone and welcome to another hashtag ASKJIM, which we do every time we have training week. We've got a massive crowd in tonight. We've got a massive amount of franchisees into training, which is fantastic for winter as well.
Yep.
So winter can be a bit quieter, so it's good to see everyone getting early before the spring rush. So what we're going to do tonight, guys, we're going to launch pretty much straight into it with your questions. So I'm going to read them out from here and you can come up to the mic and get your face in there for the clip. But if you've got a question at any time, please come up and ask us. Anyone who asks a question up there gets a prize. So who wants to go first tonight? So Matthew, you jump up.
We're good?
Yeah.
Hey Jim, how you going? My question is, how do I become a franchisor and how fast can I do it?
Be careful what you wish for. Be careful what you wish for.
There are three things we look for, Matthew. One of them is we look for somebody who's making good income. If you want to train anybody else, you need to make good money yourself. You need to have a good customer service record. That's absolutely vital. Ideally, you've done something like be a trainer or something of that nature, which shows your willingness and that you like helping people. So those are the first three things. But having said that, to buy into a major region is a bit difficult. If you want to become, because they're taken up and they don't often come on the market, where there's often opportunities with new divisions. Or you might even launch a new division yourself, which is not unknown. People come up with there's a new division that's just about to go called Jim's Beauty, which is just one of the local, actually it's a franchisor in Queensland. We just thought that's a good area to be into, and it's now launching that as a division. So if you meet the criteria, there's usually something you can do at that level. Having said that, of course, you must understand that most of the really top earners in gyms are actually not franchisors, they're franchisees. There's not a lot of franchisors who make as much money as someone like Dan did when he was a franchisee.
Thank you.
So, but yeah, think about it.
Yeah,
new ideas for new divisions. We're always looking for new divisions.
Yeah, fantastic.
Good one, Matt. Jim's Beauty. You're going to use that division, Jim?
I think it's a hopeless case with me.
Might be a bit of trouble. What is the logo for Jim's Beauty?
I think they're looking at like nails, like nails. Maybe my wife, Sharon. Not me.
Hey Jim, just going with that thing on the beauty, can you elaborate on that a little bit more, please?
It's basically things like the nails and makeup and those kinds of things. And it's particularly, obviously it's the kind of thing that women do. It's a very female, because our fastest growing divisions tend to be female oriented, like cleaning, dog wash and laundry. So we think it's a good opportunity. A lot of women, especially Asian women, just like doing that kind of stuff. It's a good business. It pays quite well.
Yeah, my partner, she's trying to head down that pathway with nails and whatnot.
If she's interested, just put her in contact. We're looking for pioneers on the division, but it should be going fairly soon. I think it's a good one. We see a division that's got, we basically want to focus on divisions where you go out and give a service for someone, and we need to show a way of making at least $60 an hour. And that certainly fits that.
Yeah, I think if you get after class with nails, I think you can.
Yeah, I think potentially it's a good division. But I mean, we don't know what's going to go. Who would have thought that laundry would have 70 plus franchisees in just over 2 years? It's just, you can do really, really well. We've got some very fast growing divisions too. Like this one we're looking forward to, Jumping Castles. Oh, I see, yeah, there you are.
Last training we said we'd get you a piñata. Here's your Jim's Jumping Castle piñata.
Yes, you did
loaded
too.
and ready to go.
Bring it up here, Steph. I'm sure there'll be a few people that want to hit Jim, but that's all right. Don't go up here.
There you go, Jim.
There you are.
Custom made in Adelaide for you.
That's fantastic.
Wow.
So you do this. So let's plug this a bit, Steph. So do you want to talk about? Obviously, it's Jumping Castles and Party High, but do you want to talk about all the things you've done for people? So obviously, you can make these sorts of things.
Well, we didn't make this. I had it was made from a company in Adelaide called Custom Piñatas. So as soon as we got off the training last time.
How much do they charge for it?
That one's a 70 centimetre. That costs $100.
Okay.
So, and the smaller they go, but they do, that's, like I say, custom made, so they could do anything.
You know what's surprising about this division is that it actually appeals to adults as much as kids, isn't it?
Yeah, Jim was surprised that adults would actually buy this
I like
stuff.
Jumping Castles and this kind of thing too,
Yeah.
that all the kids' experiences. So we thought, actually we were discussing, we thought a piñata would be great. It'd be great social media.
That's right. So it's all ready to go for you. It's fully loaded with lollies and when you're ready to break it open at any time.
We'll have to work out who's going to hit it first. We'll have to work it out. We'll have to do some sort of
You might have to do a raffle for that, you know.
We might have
highest
to do
bidder.
something. Yeah, we might have to do
That'd
something.
be a good video, wouldn't it? I
would be,
reckon that'd go viral.
Yes, we'll try and do something like that for sure. Whack a gym, yeah, we'll see.
Whack a gym.
You can bid on Whack a Gym, we'll see.
If you like paying fees, whack a gym.
Well, the preach notices that might go out sometimes.
Charity run.
The charity run.
Yeah.
Cool. Thanks for that, Steph. That's awesome. So jumping castles, thank you for that one as well. That's really, really good. Cool. Let's go to the questions here. But as I said, just jump up any time. You don't have to put your hand up. Please do. We got one here from Garage Doors. This is from Topan or Tapan. From Garage Doors. Is he here? If not, I'll read it out in proxy. Who mows Jim's own lawn?
No, they run over from the. I've got 5 acres next door, so they run over from the conference centre.
There you go. Then we have one from Parthy from.
But actually, I'm at my farm. I actually do my own lawn occasionally up there. Not too often, but sometimes.
Are you using battery or the petrol?
Battery.
What brand?
AEG.
AEG. Cool. We got.
Push. It's not that big. Just the area around the house.
Then we have one here from. Is it Parthy from Security Doors? Where's Parthy from Security Doors? Not here. We'll read it out. What does Jim do differently compared to other franchise businesses? Which is a good question. Should be here for a prize, but he's not.
Yeah. It's very different in terms of the. It's more to do with culture than anything else. We put the franchisees first. We give franchisees powers that nobody else does. We allow franchisees to change to a different franchisor, to vote out their franchisor, to veto changes to their own manual. That's the biggest difference. And we look upon ourselves as serving franchisees rather than being the bosses.
What about flat fee model? How common is that in your knowledge?
Yeah, mostly they use flat fee. We use flat fee as lead fee. We have a very tough, as everybody here knows, we have a very tough attitude towards customer service. Tougher than anybody else in the industry, I would say, which does cause some tension at times. Maybe the pinata will come in handy when you get another complaint. But
Well, you might have to put it out to some one-star survey people and see what happens. Yeah, for sure.
that's right.
Could get some money. That's
Yeah.
a good one. Cool. Next one here we've got from Tony from Pest Control. Is Tony here from Pest Control? Another proxy one. Good one. Is he here? You do? You sure? Really? Well, that means we have to read it out even more.
Yeah, read it out.
Yeah.
Come on. Listen, I won't be offended. I
No,
promise
this is a fine question. This is no problem. No, this is fine. Now's a good time to ask. How much does Jim make a day and week? Good question. I like that one. Good question.
I did say that I wasn't going to answer questions about finance. Yeah, I make good income. I would say that the great majority of what I get out of the business I give away. I funded a research project which takes many times as much money as I personally live off.
Now, the research project, for people wondering.
The research project, yeah. I've got a research project. I did a PhD back in the 70s, early 80s. I'm trying to understand the reasons for, why civilizations flourish, why they're creative, why they lose it, and so forth. And it had implications for biology. And so actually one of the real reason for starting a business in the first place was to try and fund that. So we're now spending several $1 million a year on research, which is done through La Trobe University in Melbourne. So that's kind of where that money goes. If I lived on that money, I'd be very, very rich.
And that's in that black book.
That's in that book if anyone's interested to grab a copy afterwards. I guarantee you it's not easy reading because it changes everything you want to know about society. All the reasons things happen, the reasons wars take place, they're all different. They're all in terms of biology.
There we go. If you're interested, come see us at the end. Then we have one here from Nigel, front row. Remember it, Nigel?
So Jim, question I suppose, we talk about franchisees wanting to earn good money, charge good amounts. Then we do our franchisee surveys for the clients. At what point, so how many price-related surveys can a franchisee have before it becomes detrimental to their business or our business?
There is no upper limit at all. The biggest problem we have with franchisees is more likely to be not charging enough. I would have 10 conversations with a franchisee, 20 conversations with a franchisee about not charging enough for one I have about being too expensive. The only time it's ever a problem is if you're short of work and you're getting a lot of knockbacks. At that stage, yes, moderate your price. But generally speaking, once you get to be busy, which the vast majority of franchisees will, we suggest you put your price up. Just add 10% on. Price is never, ever a negative. It's never a negative. It's never a 1 star. If we have a 1 star review and there's indications that it's a price issue, then I'll take off the star rating and put a dollar sign on instead. So,
Yeah. No.
What's your thoughts on that one, Nigel? Because you're a franchisor and you have franchisees.
Yeah, reason I ask, I suppose, is that I hear through other franchisees of someone that, oh my God, the price they've charged is horrendous, and you're getting feedback that is negative for our brand in our region. And I think it actually, personally, I think it actually hurts franchisees in their own business if you've got one rogue trader out there trying to be the pig-headed one of everyone. I personally think it's a bit detrimental, but you know, it doesn't seem to be a concern.
we had nearly 300,000 unserviced leads last year. People are much more reactive to quality of service. I get a lot of, well, I go through every pause survey every day. So I know what people are saying about us in a negative sense. And sometimes people will object to the price. But when I get a comment that says, I'll never use gyms again, 99% of the time it's not to do with price, it's to do with service. We didn't turn up, we didn't ring up, we let them down, we did a poor job. And then we try and fix that problem. I'm a firm believer that the way to go in business, in the service industry, is to emphasize quality, great service, brilliant service, amaze clients, exceed expectations, but charge a good price. Yeah. And actually, if you've heard what Dan said this morning about the way he charges, and I've never in my life charged as much as he does, but it works brilliantly well because the service is so good. And the thing about Dan, I don't know if he told you that, but he was a 5.0 rated franchisee, and he was turning over, and he charges astronomical prices. What is he saying? 120.
He's behind Nigel there, actually.
$120 an hour for normal jobs and 180 for extras.
For one-off jobs, 180, and for a regular job,
Yeah.
120.
Now that is a really, really high price, but Dan was 5.0 on hundreds and hundreds of jobs.
Over like 600 5-star reviews,
Yeah, that's right.
So
So
great service leads to great sales.
I would not worry about it, actually.
No, it's just worth asking the question. It's,
Good on,
it's
Nigel.
one that bugs me a bit. So yeah, I'll just
If you want to see some real negative reviews, can I tell you where to go? Go to the gym's fencing site. But they're all about the same thing. We can't provide the service. People get very, very irate at us because we say no all the time because we get so much work. So why be cheap?
No, that's all good. Thank you.
Good one, Nigel. Got a few more online real quickly, Jim. This one's actually a really good one from John Egan. Hi, Jim. Franchisors ring their franchisees to see how they're doing. Who rings the franchisors to see how they are doing?
We have a structure which is that every person in gyms has a mentor. And if you're a franchisor, your mentor is your divisional franchisor, which is quite frequently us. So, for example, we are the mowing division. So every month, the Rocky or someone else on behalf of him will contact the franchisors, the mowing franchisors. So yes, everybody has a mentor, except me.
Except here. Well, audio books are probably your mentors, aren't they?
Yeah, they are.
Yeah. So we got one here from
Good question.
Ben from Jim's Mowing. Where's Ben from Jim's Mowing? Up the front.
What's
Yeah,
up,
pop up
mowing
the
guy?
Get your face on TV. It's a good beard like yours. Man.
Yes,
Get on there.
he's right there.
How come there's so many weeds in your lawn?
How many so many weeds in Jim's lawn? Is the question.
Yeah.
You're talking about here?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not a great believer in chemicals, actually. You know, I was a mowing contractor for 15 years. From part-time and full-time, I never used poisons of any kind. I just don't like them.
Pretty harsh at times, eh? Some of them can be quite deadly. Yeah.
I just don't like poisons.
Yeah.
We don't use them on my farm either. It's completely organic. Don't even use anything, Roundup or anything. We'll cut things back by hand, but I never use poison. I just don't like it. I think it gets into your system and it poisons the environment. It's a personal prejudice, but that's what I
If
feel.
you see our maintenance guy Tony tomorrow, you should ask him. So he'll be in a yellow shirt. Just ask him and see what he says.
Yeah, 'cause there's quite a few.
Yeah.
Let him know. Let him know.
And some weeds can be quite evasive too, and they can become quite a problem as well. So,
We do have the weeds. You know the weed steamer. I remember you tried the weed steamer, which is not chemicals, at the trade show. That's all natural. That thing.
You
One
could
of those
use
weed
it.
steamers. Yeah.
But then again, you know, I used to mow lawns all the time. If you actually mow lawns regularly, it tends to inhibit the broadleaf plants anyway. And most lawns in Australia have it's different in America. We went to America, we were looking at Texas, at lawns over there, and the grass is that high. and there's not a weed amongst it, but that's chemicals, chemicals, chemicals. I just don't like that style. I think it's artificial. I'd much rather have a weed with a lawn with a few weeds in it than use a lot of sprays. I'm not telling what my franchisees can do. If you want to be out there and spray and stuff, that's good. But I don't like it. Gets into people's skin. Gets into pets. I don't like poisons.
Good question, though. Good observation. Got one here from Peter from Jim's Building Inspections. Where's Peter? It's a good question, this one.
G'day, Jim. Just wondering, when did you discover your purpose in life?
Well, in my 20s, when I was developing this theory, I was trying to understand the reason for the rise and fall of civilizations, and I figured I understood what was going on. And if we don't do something about it, it could be horrific. On the other hand, if we can't understand what the base of these things are, it could be a way of regenerating human society and curing lots of illness like drug addiction and so forth. So yeah, that's been my purpose.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Good question. Well, we've got one online real quickly from, where is he? Paul Nichols in the second row. Jim, can you tell me about biohistory.org? So maybe do you want to tell them a bit about biohistory.org?
Well, it's a website that deals with this particular subject here. It basically, it's got to do with the idea that what causes civilization is a kind of character, a certain kind of personality, which has certain kinds of attitudes that are very favourable towards economic progress, large political units, stability, rule of law, those kinds of things like that. And it has to do with a kind of, it's an epigenetic setting. If you know what epigenetics are, it's the way that genes are turned on or off. And it's an epigenetic setting which has to do with the way that animals cope with mild food restriction. And human societies developed cultures that create this kind of temperament, this kind of personality, particularly the major religions like Hinduism, Buddhism, Christianity, and so forth. So, yeah, that's the basic idea behind it. If you go to biohistory.org, you'll see some videos in there done by one of my sons, which explains pretty much what it's about. Plus a link to all the books.
Yeah, on YouTube as well, if you punch it in, those videos come up. They explain it pretty well. Cool. Next one here from people we've got is Emery from Jim's Mowing. Where's Emery? It's a good question, this one, as well.
Hi, Jim. I'd like to ask you, how can you keep the reputation up when you got so many franchise, so many people work for you, and everyone can make a mistake?
It's actually a matter of systems, Emery, really, rather than me personally getting involved. A lot of it's computerized. The best thing we ever did for customer service is institute customer surveys. We survey customers after 10 days. And since we've done that, which happened about, 10, 12 years ago, it was about the time you started.
Yeah, around about then, yeah.
And since we've done that, the level of actual complaints have gone down dramatically. And the level of leads have risen dramatically. There is a huge benefit to being big because you've got the money. We spend several $1 million a year on software, on computer development. We can do it because of the size. And once you've got that, the systems are largely automated. I do keep closely in touch with them, but it's in a very easy to organise format. So yeah, the bigger we are, actually, the better we get. The more franchisees we have, the more work we get, the more exposure, and the more franchises we have also, the more we can invest in better systems. So as we've actually got bigger, we've actually got better at the same time. And you can measure that quite accurately in things like the number of, star ratings themselves, of course, but also the number of complaints that actually come through from the public. It used to be that we got quite a few. Pre-franchise day, I would get a complaint for every lead that came through. These days, it'd be a fraction of a percent.
Thank you.
Yeah, good question. I recommend that there's a video of how to deal with complaints. YouTube, Jim Penman dealing with complaints. I'd watch that because that gives you a good understanding of the system from your point of view.
Yes.
And how you do it and deal with it.
That's a good question.
Good question. If you've got a question, guys, please feel free to come up and ask any time. Got a few more comments online real quickly I'll read out. John Walsh says, I'll call my franchisor on a weekly basis to see how he's doing. He's a hands-on as much as I am in the pest control business, so it's good of John to do that. Jason Chalk has asked, what are some of the higher earnings for a year in the mowing division? What are some highest earning people that you know about?
Well, I know we've had franchisees turning over in the millions. We don't actually ask, so unless they volunteer it, then we don't know. But it's an interesting point that there are quite a few mowing franchisees who make more than 98% of franchisors, which is surprising. People think you've got to be a franchisor to make money. In fact, when Dan took over regional franchise, I think you took a pay cut, isn't that right?
Yes, I certainly did.
Yes. One day you'll probably make more, but
I have 2 franchisees in my region that are earning over $1 million a year. So they're definitely out there. There's quite a few earning good money.
yeah.
There you go. Good
Well,
question.
they wouldn't be clearing $1 million a year, but they probably get most of it to the bottom line.
Yep.
We always get that comment, how much is he taking net? So they don't have to say that net, but they do take a bit home. Chris Parker as well online said, how many territories can one franchisee have in mowing? Well, probably a good question in general.
Yeah, well, you normally only want one, because if you have a second territory, you've got to pay 2 lots of fees, and there's no real point in our system. Because in general, in divisions like mowing and fencing, there's unlimited work. That's not always the case, and it depends on when you start and so forth. But generally, so people often ask me about buying a second franchise. I tend to say, well, why would you? You're paying extra fees because your base fee doubles, but you're not going to be able to, but you can get double the work almost certainly just by asking for more work. Because most franchisees, after a while, switch off from work, especially in mowing.
So we've got one here from Steve and David from Jim's Mowing. Steve and David here? No, I'll read it out. It's a good question.
Oh, no, there is.
Oh, yes? Cool. Oh, David.
David.
It was a question about the fees for buying a Jim's Mowing franchise.
Right.
Just our discussions on different stakes. The price differences were big, and I was just wondering how is that structured?
Purchase price is so different state to state, yeah?
Yes. Look, the thing about gyms is we have very strict systems about things like service. Service to clients, service to franchisees. But each business is much more independent than you might think. Divisions work quite separately in terms of what they, even things like changing the colour of the uniforms. I mean, they just do that themselves. We just say, okay, and I say, fine, whatever you want. So as a franchisee, you can charge whatever you like. The only exception would be car detailing, where they actually do have set prices, largely to keep the minimum up. Franchisors are in the same situation. So you've got a franchisor in a position where, for example, they've got lots and lots of spare work, lots of unserviced leads. They can sell a franchise very, very cheap. Now, if you've got a franchise in another area where work is less plentiful, if they're going to put a franchise and they've got to put a lot more advertising to find them work, then they'll charge more by its nature. Yeah. In a lot of situations, we give franchises away when there's enough desperate, like a person who's a good independent wants to come across. We often give them a franchise because there's so much work available.
Good question. Got a couple more online real quickly, Jim. One from Renata says, when we started, we had to turn down potential customers as we didn't have enough people to work during COVID time. Now we have people looking for work but not enough customers. I would like some ideas on how to get more customers. Thanks. They don't say what division they're in, but... Renata De Silva. Yep.
I think they're cleaning.
Cleaning.
I think they are, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. How do you get more customers? Do great customer service. Really wow your customers with great service. And then you ask for referrals. And as well, we recommend you ask for referrals. You give every client a business card, 3 business cards. Here's my business card, and here's a couple of extra in case you want work done. You offer upsells. And you just, in a very soft sort of way, you just say, is there anything else you ever want done? Mention, example, happy to help. Those basic kinds of ideas. Work out relationships with people like agents, become very good supplier, and just keep on building and developing. In effect, yes, it's not, if you've got to employ people, can it be challenges? But it's a case of building it gradually. If your customer service is good, you should be able to build your client base. You should not, in divisions like mowing and cleaning and dog washing in particular, need to be constantly getting leads from the office. That will be a danger sign. Your business ought to be good enough to justify itself and just fill up the gaps. Where we can be helpful is if you want to go to the next stage, put an extra work on and so forth.
There you go. Go for it.
Hi, Jim. Warren from Mowing.
Hey, Warren.
We are generally, with our upbringing, we're a product of what we are from 0 to about 12 years of age. I was just wondering, what was your upbringing like between 0 and 12?
I don't know.
Long time ago.
Long time ago. I don't know.
Question.
I had pretty involved parents, I guess. My father was pretty fierce. I didn't get on very well with him when I got to a certain age. One stage when I didn't speak to him for 6 months. Mum was I don't know, very dedicated mother, but very anxious. Didn't live the happiest life. I think they were good parents and they cared a lot and they encouraged us. And no, my father was a university lecturer. So, yeah. He wasn't very pleased when I became a gardener, I can tell you. he didn't say anything, but, you know, like son could be an engineer or a doctor or a lawyer or even an academic, maybe, a gardener. I mean, but towards the end of his life, when I had about 1,000 franchisees, I said to him once, it wasn't such a bad career choice, was it, Dad? And he said, no, guess not.
Wonderful. Thank you.
No, good question. We've got one here from James from the cleaning group. Where's James? Good name, James.
James. Change it to Jim, you got the beard already, you're there.
Yeah, we need the bucket hat. Absolutely.
So I heard today that your first name's not actually Jim or James. So I was curious to know why you went that way rather than your first name.
When I left school, I went to work on a farm for a while. I took a gap year, and there was a young guy there about my age called David, and a bit confusing. It was only the two of us, so I said, call me Jim. It's kind of like a bit of a, I know women always say David's a nice name, but Jim has a kind of a, I don't know, like a macho kind of sound to it. It's a bit rough and tough and Aussie and, you know.
I'll take it.
James sounds like a butler, sorry, but I mean it does. But it's just, I just like that. It's very, very Aussie kind of Australian, outdoorsy, that kind of thing. I don't know.
Absolutely.
I think you've got a different life. I wouldn't mind being something like a Hell's Angel bikie or a or a fireman or a police or something like that. I just like that kind of masculinity thing.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm not saying that you're not masculine. You've got a beard to prove it, so I'll believe that.
But I'd also make a good butler.
It's an extra service you can do in your business. It's all right. Good question. Thanks for that one.
Good evening, Jim.
Good evening.
Heavy question for you. Businesses can be multi-generational, and franchisees are building a business within the Jim's business, and I'm just starting out, today, and so I'm planning on building something to pass on to my kids, over the next 5 years. This is sort of the last throw of the dice for me to really get them going, and considering, sort of looking 20, 30, 40, 50 years into the, looking into their future. Have you made provisions for, because you spoke about how this company will run, and you won't float it on the share market and corporates won't be involved, but have you made provisions for the future when you're not around?
The way it's determined in the family trust is that when I die, it'll go to, there's a trust structure that's set up in place. It's for the benefit of the research principally, but also with certain benefits to my kids in terms of helping with houses and so forth.
Yeah.
And my children and their spouses will vote. So it's an attempt to keep a system. Look, I can't control things beyond the grave, but as far as possible, I've got some very decent kids and a couple of potentially great sons-in-law, or who I think have the ethics to carry on. So I'll do the best I can to make sure that Jim's is kept as a private family company. There's companies in Japan that have been going for 1,500 years.
Wow.
That's a long time, and I don't think we'd be so lucky to do that, but family businesses.
Yeah.
So we'd love every franchisee to have a family business and bring their heirs, and we'd never lose a franchisee. They'd just pass it to their heirs.
That's very, very common. We have people like John Formosa who's got 2 sons and a nephew involved in it and stuff, so there's many people who do that. So.
Well, I've built businesses in the past, and I know the energy and the time that it takes to do it. And my worst fear would be in 20 years that some corporate grubs got hold of it and just broke it up. And
Jim will be about in 20 years, that's what I think. Won't you, Jim?
I've got a life expectancy based on Google. You go to Google and you can estimate your life based on health and stuff.
Yeah.
I'll probably live a bit over 20 years. Mid-90s is reasonable. Yeah. I'm 71 right now, so I'll probably be around for longer than most people here. As franchisees, I won't outlive you.
No, very good.
Roofing as well, so that's a good one as well. It's a new service, so.
Yes, very exciting actually. Getting off to a great start. It's just a new division. It's got already like 15 or something.
Yeah, the boys have done a good job.
It's only been going about 3 months, which is fantastic.
Absolutely. Cool. We've got another one here from Matthew. So Matthew in the front, you've got another one here for Jim.
Hey, Jim.
Hey, Matthew. You contacted me beforehand, didn't you?
Yeah.
How quickly did I answer?
Good, very good. But, it was about an hour.
About an
Right
hour.
on an hour. I send you a text message, and an hour later you message me back. I screenshot it and sent it to all my family.
Hopefully the number was in there.
Yeah.
that's all right.
I got two questions. First one, who is Jim and what does he stand for?
I think I spoke about that pretty well on Monday morning. I am somebody who has a mission. My mission is my research, and my mission is my franchisees, my tribe, my extended family. I don't think piling up money is a mission in life that's of worth any value. I knew somebody who was brother of a friend of mine who was immensely wealthy, far wealthier than I am, who committed suicide. Had all the money in the world, all the possessions, all the material stuff, and his family life was so stuffed up. And I don't think that's worth it. I'm actually preparing a new version of the Jim's book, and the title of the book, I'll give you a crash preview, is going to be called No Other Success, and it relates to the statement, no other success can compensate for failure in the home. And I'm going to talk about that kind of thing. What is the meaning of life? What is the meaning of, what do we work for? What do we live for? And there needs to be a purpose. There needs to be something beyond ourselves. Otherwise, I think we're just parasitical and useless and often miserable.
Good answer. I have another question for you. Have you looked into memberships and subscriptions? Have you looked at that path into like mowing and those repetitive sales?
So memberships in what sense?
So like you buy a membership to Jim's Mowing, so from your franchisee, and that like a Netflix subscription. So every month, no matter what, money comes out, and then you always do your services, or you do your spot checks, or you go see your customers, or whatever like that.
The way we're very different from Netflix. Netflix is one big company charging people and then providing the same sort of service. Our charges are done by our franchisees individually, so there's no particular way we can promise a certain service for a certain price because we don't set the prices.
For me in electrical, like in my past, we have like a big printout sheet with like clips on it, and it says like cheap safety inspection or something like that. So then the customer buys a membership to the company, and then kind of not really buying. They're buying into permanent trust and work.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you an idea we did have, which is something I'd love to do someday, and this might be particularly applicable to rental properties, to have a contract that says they pay a certain amount of money every month, and we do defined jobs. So, and that might work for something like handyman. So you might have a handyman franchise. I was talking to something about handyman before about regularity of work. So you might have a handyman who has like 200 houses, and they need to fix whatever goes wrong with those houses. And it's always got to be defined in terms of the standard of the house. And a certain income comes in, which is very steady, but whenever something goes wrong, they just go there and fix it. Now, I think that kind of model has potential. So it's in a sense what you're talking about, isn't it?
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
My mother was, when she was old, she had 2 flats. And the agent was always ringing up to say, can we get this done, can we get that done? Which is a lot of trouble for the agent, but it also got my mother so stressed because she was a very anxious person that she eventually sold her flats simply to avoid the stress. Now, if there was a system in place where she knew that every month a certain amount of money come out and she never had to worry about anything ever again, she probably would have kept it the whole life.
That's what I was asking. Yeah.
So actually, I'd be happy to have a chat with you about that afterwards, but we're very keen to do something. One of the things we did at one time, we tried Jim's real estate, which I don't think is the best thing, but I would love to do Jim's property maintenance. And we could actually deal with property managers because they spend all their time chasing after getting things done. What if we had a service we could do something? So I think there's actually, in that sense, particularly for rental properties, it's actually got great potential. Have a chat afterwards.
Fantastic.
There you go, new division on air.
Could be.
Awesome. I got one more question. Sorry.
No, don't apologise.
Subcontractors in franchisees in businesses, is that a recommended thing? Obviously, trusted people, like signing them up to gyms to work under that franchisee.
Well, you can put subbies on, as long as they're uniform, as long as they provide the right service. How you do it's up to you. Once again, the whole thing, you're responsible. Yeah, so they get
to
if your subbies let you down, don't blame the subbies, blame you for putting them on.
Yeah.
And it's difficult to do.
Yeah.
But see, before the franchise, I used to have subbies, and that service was terrible.
Yeah.
But then what someone like Dan did with his employees, that was vastly more impressive because you have better systems of control. So as long as you can handle it correctly, as long as you can maintain the quality, the service, the regularity, go for it. We don't limit, we don't define the way you run your business. We only care about the end product, which is happy customers.
Thank you.
Thanks for that. We've got to whip through a heap. We've got a heap of questions, Jim, online as well. So we've got to get through them in here as well. We've got one from Dogwash. So the Dogwash group of questions now. So where's Sahar? Sahar? S-A-H-A-R?
Where are you, sir?
Outside, I'll wait. We've got one here from Roger. Where's Roger from Dogwash?
Jim, you probably already covered this a bit, and a few other questions covered it, but I want one of those beers, so I'm going to get up here and say it anyway. So you covered a bit already about I read in your book that in the early days you were subcontracting out and getting people to work, and that your quality of service suffered.
Yes.
So for franchisees who want to build their business and bring on new employees and staff, have you got any ideas on how you can get them to be invested more in your business, to do a better job, to help build your business? It's always I've owned my own businesses before, lawn mowing, sorry, not a gym, but I have had it before, and I had that problem, and it's not easy to get staff. So hanging on to them, even when they're not necessarily always doing a good job, you do it because it's really hard to find staff. Any ideas on what to do or how you've done it?
I would say for a start, I'm not the best person to ask, but if you talk to that guy behind you,
I'll answer that.
there are some fantastic videos being done. We did an all-day seminar here, which was free to anybody who had a rating of 4.8 and above, which is about 99% of them.
Yeah.
And actually, they had a whole day talking about exactly how to do that. That's all online now.
Yeah.
And
Sharon gave me some good, after I had that question too, about the rent to buy. And I think that maybe kind of ties in with it a little bit, the rent to buy.
Well, the rent to buy thing is because that's one where we provide the trailer.
Yeah.
So we're looking at doing with vans actually down the track a bit. And we actually find that with that particular model, the franchisee, Dogwash franchisee, looks after their worker, basically subcontractor, very, very well. And we actually find they get very good results. But there's a system of controlling them. But once again, I'm probably not the best person. Within gyms, you'll find people with tremendously different skills. I'm very good at certain kinds of things. If you ask me questions about contracts and stuff and the way the system works, I'm very good at that. If you ask me questions about how to look after employees and give great service, there's other people far better than me. And that's what I would be going towards.
No worries.
But there's some terrific stuff online.
Yeah.
Have a look for it. If you like to, you can just email me and I'll send you some links.
Thank you.
Really good question as well. Where's Andy from Dogwash? Andy.
There you go, Jim.
Yeah, Andy.
I was going to ask, where can I get a case of them beers?
I don't know. I'll
take it from you in New Zealand, yeah? Yeah? Are you going to be able to take them back on the plane?
I'll try.
You'll try. We have a bunch in the office. What we've been told we can do is we can you can take one and then we can invoice you from finance. So we can do it, yes.
Oh,
if you want to do it, come up to national office, yeah.
Yeah, not a six-pack. I want a case.
Yeah, no, we've got cases. I figured that with your jumper on, yeah. It's all good. We've got the case. Waikato Chiefs fan, Jim. You know the Waikato Chiefs.
They're known for it. You've got a reputation to have you?
Good question. We always love that one. Plugging the long lager. Cool. Is Sahar back in? No, not back in. Cool. I'll leave that one there. Do we have one here? Is it from Foti or from Foti from Dogwash? Foti, F-O-T-I. I can ask it if he doesn't want to ask it.
That's you.
Yeah.
You're up.
We've got something here. I'll read out what's apparently been written by you. Yeah. I have heard that you've had a few marriages. Please explain. That's the question.
You asked a question.
Probably has.
Well, I've been divorced 3 times, which basically means 3 women couldn't stand to live with me. And if you know me at all, you'd understand why. So I don't blame them. But I've been married pretty happily for the last 22 years now. So I guess hopefully that's the end of it. But I'm not the easiest person to live with, honestly. Yeah.
We'll leave it there. We'll keep on next one. All right. Nathan from Pest Control. Where's Nathan? Is Nathan here? It's a good question. How come you haven't looked into Jim's couriers? We always get people messaging about couriers all the time online, actually.
The reason is because we don't normally start new divisions ourselves. You got to understand, we don't know much about washing dogs or pest control or any of these things. We've got people who come to us who've got a great concept, have been in the business typically, know how it's run, sees the opportunities, and then they come in and they take the brand and our systems and our reputation and they build it from there. So we'll start Jim's Couriers next month when we find the right person to drive it. That's always how it works. We had just last week, we had somebody come up to ask about Jim's vending machines. They just emailed me. Beginning of last week, they emailed me. We came to meet them. Fantastic idea. Coming in for franchisor training this week. And we hope to have that going. It's an incredibly great division. That's just somebody approaching me. Now, I wouldn't do it because I don't know how it's run, but they know the system. They've already got thousands of machines out. They know how to do it.
We get 2 or 3 a week when your new division requests.
I get a lot of requests every week because my email is quite open. I get a lot of spam, but that's easy. But I also get people come to me with ideas. And that's usually where it comes through my personal email. Most of them I say, no, can't do it, or no, not enough experience, or no, there's not good enough hourly rate for my franchisees. If I can't see $60 an hour, I'm not going to do it. But then occasionally you get someone come up with something that's really good, and then you get a new division.
There we go. Next one here, we've got Luke from Pest Control. Is Luke from Pest Control still here? No. Oh, that's a question. That's a good one. He goes, how does Jim see AI affecting the business in the future?
Probably not much because the actual potential for standard IT is so phenomenally more than we can offer right now. We have got a program that's going on. We're spending millions of dollars a year developing software. What we can imagine without AI would be so much. We would be astronomically better. We could see our level of complaints drop by at least half to what they are now with better software. We could see better service. We're going to have a system eventually we aim to have where a customer rings in or books online and they get plugged into a franchisee's diary because we'll know where they are and how much time they've got, that kind of thing, which would enormously improve things. You know, automatic stuff like when you ring a client, you ring them, you can text them on the spot without having to think about it. It does things, it follows up, it chases debts, it has its own inbuilt accounting system so you don't need Xero. There is so much stuff that we can do with standard technology. I think it'll be a long time before we run out of low-hanging fruit and need to think about AI.
Yeah, it's probably, we're talking about today, but the benefit to franchisees in drafting debtors letters, newsletters, these things which they probably don't want to do traditionally, they can do really easily now with those sorts of things.
We don't get a lot of problem with debts, but that is an issue. So we'd like to have a system which automatically chases debts and sends letters and hassles people and stuff. You got a few deadbeats out there. I want to get away with it.
Most aren't, but that's all good.
Most clients are great, but there are a few that are real.
We got one here from Bassem. It's from Bassem from cleaning here. Is he here still? No, I'll ask this question for him. How many children do you have?
Depends how you count them.
Elaborate.
I count 10 children. Yep. Richard, Andrew, David, Sarah, James, Thomas, Jasmine, Sylvie, Esther, Aaron. Is that 10?
Around about that, yes.
That's about okay. But in another sense, I've got 16 children because I've been a sperm donor. So, biologically speaking, I've got 16. In actual fact, 10.
There you go.
Probably didn't want to know that.
Well, TMI, it's all good, TMI. We got one here from Aaron from Building Inspections. Is Aaron still here from Building? Cool.
I've actually changed my question now, but just wondering how your findings from your PhD and also your ongoing research, how that has influenced your approach for your business.
Good question.
Not really in any way significant, to be honest. The biggest influence on my business would be my faith, being Christian. That determines the basic ethics and the basic approach. Look, the only thing the two have got in common is that both are out-of-the-box thinking. This is very, very radical way to understand society, different to anything you could possibly have seen anywhere. And what Jim's does is a very, very radical approach to franchising. So I have got surprisingly few abilities. So many things I'm really, really bad at. But there's two things that I'm not too bad at. I'm a very independent thinker, and I've got a very strong passion, like an ability to talk and to convey ideas and convey values. They're my great strengths. But I wouldn't say that this has contributed to my business in any way at all.
Yeah. And then, while I'm here, I may as well ask the original one. Was the growth that you've had from gyms, was that the plan from the beginning? And if not, when did that sort of happen? And
No.
how did you sort of plan for that?
Gyms did wildly better than I could have expected. As I've often said, when I started off at the beginning, back in 1989, somebody asked me how many franchisees I might have. And at that time, I had a major competitor with 250 franchisees. I was trying to survive being crushed by them. So what I said to somebody at that time, I don't know whether it'll work, but if it does, one day I could have as many as 100. By the end of the first year, I had 60, and I thought, wow, this is surprising. And it often surprised me. The one thing I tell you about business is nothing ever, ever, ever works out like you expect. Most of the things you think are good don't work out. Some of the things that you think might work turn out to be brilliantly successful, and it's very hard to tell. That's one of the things you've got to keep on experimenting and trying different ways of doing things. But here's one thing, we do pretty well here.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Good question.
You got a question, guys, feel free to jump up. I've got a few comments online as well, so I'm going to just read a bunch of them out. But if you've got a question, please jump up. Ask one, Dan.
Yep. What do you think would be the biggest threat towards the gyms group?
Look, in all due modesty, something happened to me. To be pretty clear about it, because we're on a very good wicket. We're profitable. We're growing. We've got a very good culture. If something happened to me and my heirs decided to sell it to some multinational, greedy, money-grubbing so-and-so, as there are plenty of those around, I think you could destroy it quite quickly. I don't think, apart from a sort of total breakdown of society, I think what we've got is a fantastic model. And I think we can continue to get better. But if I wasn't around, and it's one of my most constant thoughts, what's going to happen on one day. I had dinner the other night with my daughter Jasmine and her fiance, and he's a great guy. He's actually a management consultant, and he's a very ethical guy. So he's the kind of person that I would hope one day. He's the bloke that's an undergraduate. He set up a charity in Thailand. He's just that kind of person. He's thoroughly decent, likes helping people. He's also very, very capable. I think if I can get somebody like him in the next generation, I think gyms could do really well.
Yep.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Good question,
Jim.
Dan. Got one here online from Negus, which is, are franchisees paying for the leads if they can't reach the customer, like if they don't answer the calls and text messages?
Yes, absolutely. And that's the whole point about lead fees. It provides an incentive to try and try and try. Don't take leads you don't want and keep on trying to get them. We take off 15% to cover the ones that you cannot convert.
Another one online. By all means, guys, please come up and ask a question if you want as well. Robert Kennedy's asked, we always get this sort of one, so we're going to ask it. Will you sue Dan Andrews for his illegal lockdowns?
We've got a case going through the Supreme Court. We went to VCAT. Basically, it's a test case run by one of our franchisees, which we're doing on his behalf, basically saying, according to the government's own law back in 2008, you can't remove somebody's livelihood without good cause. Went to VCAT to actually say, hey, this guy should get compensated based on the government's own law. The defence of the state government was, well, yes, there was fantastically good reason, but we didn't have to tell you what it was, which is pretty ridiculous. So we're now appealing that to the Supreme Court. And fundamentally, we're not doing it to get money. We're doing it because we want to establish a point that you should never do such a stupid thing ever again.
Yeah, because we had that question here. They didn't put a name to it, but it was basically about what happens if there is another lockdown. What would you do, or what would be the...
I think next time we'd probably be a bit more sensible. But the interesting thing about the lockdown is this. What was the country in the world that had the fewest excess deaths? I mean, in other words, everybody has a certain number that you expect to have. Mostly when COVID came, the death rate rose. There was only one country where the death rate actually was less than it had been in previous years. You know what that was? Sweden. Exactly right. But the one that had the least of these draconian lockdowns. I hope that we've learned something from this. Because I tell you something too, this will not be the last super virus. With genetic engineering, which I think is a great threat to society, people are out there in laboratories trying to breed germs that are more and more powerful. They're working on it. And I personally believe that the COVID came out of the Wuhan virology study. A lot of people don't agree with that. There's some government institution like the FBI saying this is likely what happened. Now, it was an accidental release, if it was that, but this is not going to be the last time it happens. And we've got to be able to handle these things a lot better than we did last time.
Yeah.
Hi, Jim.
Something positive, please.
I watched the YouTubes and yesterday you said that, you're on the treadmill and a franchisee called you and you jumped straight off. I'd like to know what your health routine is, because where you are today and your age and how long you've been doing it and how much effort you put in, like, I want to be able to put that stuff into my life so that I can have longevity, you know?
Yeah, sure. Okay. Half an hour of vigorous exercise every day. I actually do half an hour on the treadmill, run about just under 5Ks. I also do weightlifting like this because you've got to have your body. I also walk on average about another 5,000 paces a day. I don't measure it. I just do what I normally do, just walking back and forth from the office, walking around anywhere. I've got a farm. I go out on the weekends and I dig potatoes and plant nuts and walk and stuff. So I'm very physically active. Don't eat breakfast. I 16/8 fast, so I don't normally eat before 1 o'clock. And try and eat. It's very hard when you're in training, isn't it? Even a dessert tonight. But I try and eat fairly healthy, like a lot of vegetables and fruit and stuff. So those are the basic things. But a lot of other things too, like time spent outside. That's part of my farm. Spending outside in contact with nature gives you a great mood. Keeping your mind active. I read or listen to, on average, probably a couple of books a week. I'm always reading something, and I'm reading things like The Economist, The New Scientist, and, you know, publications of various kinds. So always keeping your mind active with new ideas, keeping busy, keeping engaged, having a very active social life. I like talking to people. I like communicating with people. So, yeah, I don't drink. I don't smoke. Don't take drugs. I don't drink coffee, which I think is actually more dangerous than people think. Yeah, I have a great, happy life, very fun life, but try to be disciplined, I suppose you'd say.
Well, you don't miss a day. You don't take days off, and that's the key. He doesn't miss a day. You
Yeah.
very rarely would. I don't think you've missed a day.
Oh, I think once every couple of months I maybe would miss a day, but because something comes up, I just can't. I just get busy from morning to night. But so you can always get up half an hour earlier. Exercise is always possible. I also have a cold shower too. I think it's good. So I run. It's not as difficult as you think though, because if you're running on a treadmill, if you're really exercising hard for half an hour, a cold shower is not that difficult, even in the middle of a Melbourne winter. It's not that difficult to do. And it's kind of second nature. You get used to it. I don't find it difficult, really.
But if you did drink a beer, it'd be the lawn lager as well.
If I did drink beer, which I don't, lawn lager is the best drink around.
Come up and yeah, for sure.
Got a question for you, Jim. Daniel from Mowing. Just wondering which is the best way to go, buy petrol-powered tools or electric?
Petrol, electric.
I'm pretty biased. I love electric stuff. I really do. I think it's the way of the future.
Yeah.
Look, I've got an electric car. The first ever new car ever bought was an electric car last year, because I believe in electric. It's great. I can just go into the garage and I plug it in, and it powers off the solar panels from the roof. We've actually made it for our staff too. So any staff that has an electric car, they can come and plug in for free, because we get surplus power from the solar panels on this place. So I really believe electric. There is pretty good equipment around these days, not in the past. My actual mower AEG is a bit old hat. You have to keep on changing the battery, and it's a pain. But the new ones, some of the new batteries around really go pretty well, and they're quite powerful. So I'm really pushing electric. Electric's got many advantages. They're more expensive in the first place, but they don't wear out as much. They're not as prone to breakdown as internal combustion engines. They're also quieter. Now that's also for your benefit as well as for that of the client, and you can do lawns early and late and so forth. It doesn't have a vibration issue. Yeah. There's many benefits to electric. We strongly recommend you go electric, because when you're buying a business, the cost of the machinery is a fairly minor component if you've got a better machine. It's also great too. You see, at my farm I've got a gravel pathway. Now, all I have to do is to release the handle and the blade stop. And I just go to the other side of it and put them on again like that. I love electric machines, I really do.
Yeah, most mowing franchises, they have a hybrid setup. So they'll use a bit of petrol and a bit of battery. Like that Honda HRU you see at the front, that's probably the most popular mower in the division. Yeah, so they use a bit of a hybrid setup.
Yeah, a lot of them use the mower still for the petrol and the other equipment for the electric.
Which is made because of the juice in the battery. So if you're mowing a bit longer lawns or you need to get something a bit more longer, the juice of the battery will die down really quickly.
But as time goes on, we'll go electric. It's an obvious change. It really is.
Best brands are Palenque, which is the one that lasts all day on one battery charge.
Yes.
More expensive, but it lasts all day.
Very weird looking. It's got a pink.
It is. It is. But there's other ones like Ego, AEG, Greenworks, all these companies that are coming out. So, yeah, good question. Cool. We've got a lot of comments online, Jim. If you want to ask a question, guys, feel free to come up. We've got a little bit of time is left as well. Willie from Canada is watching, so I'll get this one for Willie.
No, hang on. Yep. Good question.
I'll just want to get Willie's one real quickly. One sec. I remember Jim saying that if you'd been in line for a Fountain of Youth or anti-aging scientific trial run, what if there was a way to upload yourself or consciousness into a computer? Would you do it?
No, because I don't believe it to be you. It might be a simulacrum, but it wouldn't actually be you. It's like teleportation, you know, like in Star Trek, where you actually have somebody disintegrated here and created another point. Now, okay, they might look the same and they might talk the same, but is it the same person or is it completely different, just with the same memories? So I wouldn't trust it. However, if there was a Fountain of Youth, if there was a way of ending aging, that would solve a lot of problems with future of gyms, wouldn't it?
It would.
And I would be first in line. Look, the way I say it is this. I could die tomorrow. I'll probably die in about another 20-something years. I could live 1,000 years. Who knows? Totally open.
Go for it.
Just wondering what new interesting businesses that are coming to the gyms banner in the future or soon.
New ones that might be coming. So you mentioned one before about vending machines, which I didn't know about. That's a
vending machines is probably really exciting. It's one that it would actually, yeah. I just can't believe how good the model is. When he first approached me, I said, "Well, this problem." He said, "No, it's all done for you. You'll set the machines up for you, and then you can upsell." And he showed what you can do and how you can do it. Compete against Coke, and it's wow, this is fantastic. Great business model. Beauty is another one. We're doing something to do with home care, people who've got...
Yes, home care, yes.
Home care, which is something that's just coming up. That's being done by Paul Comerford.
Yes.
So that's another one that's good. What else have we got we're looking at?
Don't know. I think home care is probably the big one that we could really do it. But yeah, the vending machines is a new one. People from Saudi Arabia come out yesterday.
Yeah, that's not
something different.
That's just acting as a consultant.
Yeah, beauty.
There's lots of things we'd like to do. I'd love to do... I'll tell you what I'd really love to do, and that's gyms like preppers. Prepping for disaster. I think the world is a lot less secure than most people think. I'd love to do a division which actually to do with helping people prepare, getting stored food together and preparing for the worst that'll happen. One of the things that the people in the Mormon church do is they encourage everybody to have a year's supply of food on pack, properly stacked. And to me that's a very sensible thing to do. Everybody should do that.
What food do you have stored?
Rice.
Rice.
Got rice. And some other stuff like honey and things. And I've got stuff on my farm too, so yeah.
There we go. Got one quick one online as well from David, who always watches. He says, Jim, my wife wants the dog wash franchise, but however, she doesn't want to tow a trailer. Can we buy a Ford Transit high roof and fit it out?
Yes. It's actually, it would be something like an LDV van, but we're actually looking at that right now. And we hope to have vans available within the next month. It's actually going to be fairly similar. In fact, it'll be cheaper to get into because the actual cost will be built into the franchise price. So you might be able to sell a franchise for $15,000 and you just pay for it as you go.
John from Moses jumped on and said one of your franchisees has 13 employees, so that's a pretty big business from one of the franchisees.
Wow.
John Egan, this is a bit of a targeted question, says how long do you think it will take Jim's Dog Wash to be the #1 division? To beat mowing? There's always one every training. Yeah.
I tell you what, you know something interesting about Dog Wash is we've got this system, Gyms Plus, which sells leads to other businesses that might need work. It works for mowing, it works for antennas, it works for cleaning, it works for trees. There's one division that doesn't work for because everybody we approach says I'm booked out months ahead. You know what that is? Dog wash. It's actually, we think the amount of work is potentially unlimited. So yes, it's quite possible Dog Wash could be the biggest division one day.
There we go.
I'm not saying it's the best division. You keep on asking that. Definitely the noisiest division when it comes to franchisee training, but it could potentially be the biggest. And it's surprising, but it will be. It's a great system, the actual system we've got there, and I think with the vans it'll be even better. You don't have to back trailers.
Then we got a question here online, not a question but a comment from Firas. He says, not a question but advice from experience with gyms cleaning after finished training. Guys, you have to learn from Mr. Jim. You've been called Mr. Jim, that's good. Video, my franchise is a 4.2 stars. Now I have 155 star reviews after my interview broadcast. I'm close to 4.8 star rating. we've got to listen to Jim because we're the priority and the customer service in the market. So Faraz is a good guy. I remember interviewing him. So let's finish up tonight, Jim, and give some prizes away. So we always pick the first 3 to get first picked. And if you ask the question tonight, see me at the end and we'll give you something from the table. So was there any questions or people that stood out to you in regards to?
I like the guy who talked about a sense of purpose. Who was that?
Sense of purpose question. Was that you who asked that one? Come up.
Yeah, come on.
Pick anything you like. Anything from the front. Yeah. Probably not the pinata. We're gonna use that, but everything else. Take anything you like. Anything. Which one do you want to pick? That's the one I would take. Yes, good one. Second now. Second, was there anything that stood out to you? My handwriting's really bad. I'll give one to Matthew because Matthew asked a lot of questions, so the more questions, the better. Come and pick anything you like, mate.
Take it afterwards, Matthew. Have a bit of a chat. I know you wanted to.
Take the book.
Yeah,
Take the book?
Good on you. All right.
Cool. Was there anything else that stood out to you?
You've got so many good questions in that one.
Now, Roger, where's Roger who wanted the beer? Roger, come up and grab a beer or two. Just grab a couple of them. I wrote that. I marked that down. We've got to.
I like the guy who asked the question about what was there in common. What was there in common between what I did for my research and Jim's group, or how did it help it? Yeah, I thought it was a good question.
Is that from
nobody's ever asked
Aaron?
it.
Yeah, good one. Pick one, Aaron. Anything as well? Yeah. Well, there's a few beers up there. So look, anyone who asked the question, please come and see me at the end as well. I've got a bunch of books.
Anybody who chooses the book over a beer, spot on.
Yeah. Come on, you come up and grab a beer before I forget about you. Waikato draft. Yeah. Grab a couple. We can't take a slab. Grab 2. No, grab two.
Not two slabs, 2 beers.
We've got to give a few around. Yeah. So everyone asked the question, please come up and see me at the end. If you want a photo of Jim as well, please make sure you grab them. We upload this as a podcast, YouTube, all that sort of stuff as well. We do this every 3 to 4 weeks. As you heard tonight, we have franchisees jump in and ask Jim because it's a recorded video, so you can hold Jim accountable to the question if you want to do that. So thank you for your attention tonight, guys, and have a good rest of your training experience. So thank you very much. Ta.
All right.